Welcome back to the Cannabis Podcast. Happy New Year, and I wish you and all your loved ones blessings for the year 2026 and all the days coming ahead. 2025 was crazy, and hopefully everything that was negative in your life you leave in the past, and everything positive you currently have you bring with you into the future. Now, that being said, I'd like to recap and go over some of the highlights around the world of the cannabis industry and show you some major developments that either we forgot about or might have missed, and then also go into what we think is going to happen in 2026 and some possible things that could occur even though there is a lot going on in the world. Now stick around, you're not going to want to miss all the news and updates, and please smash the like button and subscribe if you can. We are usually shadow banned and this content usually doesn't get out, and hopefully that changes this year. So thanks again for being here, and let's get right into it. 2025 was a landmark year for cannabis, defined by a historic shift in U.S. federal policy and some major changes to international markets around the world. Donald Trump rescheduled cannabis with an executive order in December, signing an executive order that directed the Justice Department to reclassify cannabis from Schedule I to Schedule III. Now, it's not full legalization and does nothing to remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act, but it does recognize the plant's medical value and allows cannabis businesses to claim federal tax deductions barred under IRS Code 280E. I would say that's probably the main reason that has happened, was to be able to withdraw tax deductions and business benefits for all these big pharma companies that are going to be jumping into the cannabis industry. Another major highlight that everybody was concerned about was the federal THC hemp ban. In November 2025, Congress passed a federal ban with the government reopening on the most intoxicating hemp-derived products, and they're closing the, quote, hemp loophole that is set for implementation in 2026. Now, that has nothing to do with hemp itself, because hemp itself was removed from the Controlled Substances Act in 2018 with the passage of the Farm Bill. This is referring to synthetic THC that is just created without extraction from the plant or just created in a lab or whatever the case may be. Another huge thing that happened in the United States on a state level development, there were quite a few. New retail markets opened in Delaware and Minnesota, officially launching their recreational marijuana sales. Kentucky also opened its first medical marijuana dispensary. Kentucky could use it. They have a pill problem, along with the rest of the Midwest, like Ohio, where I am from. Virginia elected a pro-cannabis governor in November 2025 and reignited its efforts to launch a regulated market, which they've had legal cannabis for a couple years now and just won't allow sales. Tell me how that's democracy. Florida has some momentum going into 2026 with the ballot initiative, and Ohio is trying to rewrite its laws along with Massachusetts. So there's a lot going on in the United States, and as of now, 24 states in the United States have recreational adult use cannabis. The District of Columbia and 3 territories, such as Guam, Mariana Islands, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, have legalized recreational use for adults 21 and older. Medical use is available in 40 states, which is crazy now. If you didn't know that, you do now. And D.C., they all have comprehensive medical cannabis programs. And there are many other places that have decriminalized or expanded their medical programs. Internationally, Europe and all around the world, countries have legalized cannabis in 2025, such as Spain, Czech Republic, Colombia, and Lebanon, all implementing cannabis legalization recreationally or medically, and allowing it to be exported mostly, if not solely, for the purpose of pharmaceutical development and research and development that these countries are now doing and states are now doing because they have expanded their cannabis programs. So the international market is expanding. According to AI, in 2026, the global cannabis market is projected to reach approximately 57 billion to over 66 billion in 2026. That is growing from a value of 57 billion in 2025. So it's expected to grow about 10 billion more dollars. That's a pretty good growth. That's 20 to 25% growth based on current stuff. The United States is expected to be the largest contributor, and Canada and the international markets. Mexico is just waiting for us. Mexico has legalized. They are waiting for us to implement it. And the recent developments that have been going on with Mexico, United States, and Canada kind of indicate that shift, that there'll be something to globally trade in the near future in the cannabis world, and the same with hemp. Now, the hemp market projected to reach approximately 12 to 14 billion. Some estimates on the high end were, 36 billion, but that's probably just a bunch of CEOs pumping up their own bag. CBD and hemp are going to be very, very big in the future because wellness and health is very, very important. People are getting more into health and drinking less. So every state now has less drinking and actually less impaired driving accidents after cannabis legalization. That is a fact. Gen Z is drinking less and doing more of a Cali sober approach and just consuming cannabis. More people are realizing that alcohol is poison in most regards and really destroys your immune system. You ever wonder why you have a sniffle or a cough, or you're just kind of feeling run down all the time? Well, stop drinking for a month and your immune system will just get pumped right up. But that's just my own personal experience. The interesting point about cannabis also, in 2024 and 5, the cannabis industry has a total amount of 440,000 full-time jobs in the U.S., reflecting a 5.5% increase year over year, averaging about 280 new jobs daily. The job distribution of that is mostly in cultivation, retail, and connected businesses that are indirectly associated with cultivation and retail. 17% in manufacturing, wholesaling, 2% in distribution, and less than 1% in lab testing. Now, I want to focus on the lab testing part for just a quick second because I used to work in a lab. All of these products in every state, whether it's medical or recreational, they have to be tested for potency, residual solvents, heavy metals, mold, and everything under the sun before it's put in a dispensary. So if your cannabis that you get, whether it's in a plastic bag or glass jar, does not have a QR code to scan and go to a active, not breakable link that shows you the batch and the testing and the date, personally, unless you know the person, it's a coin flip to know if and what you are getting is legit. Going forward in the future, that's going to be big. I know a lot of people in states that don't have legalization grifted and did some of this synthetic THC stuff or just exported excess stuff from legal states. Whatever the case may be, that's all coming to an end and winding down in 2026. 2026 is going to be actually a very important year for cannabis for one very good reason, and that's the Supreme Court case that the United States Supreme Court is taking up probably in mid to late summer into the fall, about whether cannabis users are allowed to own firearms. Now, this is a very hot button issue. The way they frame it is, well, now it's an illegal substance, so it's a federally controlled substance, so therefore he can't own a gun. Well, if it's now a medicine, does that mean somebody who has a prescription to pills isn't allowed to own firearms because that's a medication? I would argue some people shouldn't, but that's not the technical argument. The technical argument is the constitutionality of it. Now, in this instance, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I'm referring to the NRA. The NRA, the National Rifle Association, the gun club that advocates for gun ownership from anywhere to 2 years old to 200 years old, is in this case probably going to not let that happen. Meaning, I think, and I hope I'm not wrong, I think they will rule in the favor of the cannabis users. You let me know if you agree with me. Let me know what you think they're going to rule in the comments, and I'm going to pin all these articles for you to go through. But for 2026, this is the highlight. This is what you keep an eye on, because this will coincide with running into the midterm elections in the fall, August, September, October timeframe, where the election will be very heated and very contentious. And this is going to be an issue. And I don't know what the Democrats would say about cannabis. They've been pretty quiet on it. I am agnostic to both of these people. I do not like any of the politicians. I'm just calling balls and strikes here. The Democrats for a long time have had a chance to legalize cannabis, and they haven't. And whether or not you like the executive order, it proves that anybody, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, could have done this years ago or at any time and challenged it. But they didn't. And Donald Trump was the first one too. And now we start from here. So now this starts the ball rolling into the Supreme Court cases. Now the government will be able to print money and give states, for example, like Texas or Missouri or Alabama or Florida or any of these red states that have medical cannabis industries but not recreational, it's going to give them money for research and development in the forms of tens of millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do research that we already kind of have and already know, we just don't let people see. For example, all the information we have comes from Ole Miss University. And until recently, it was the only place that had a exclusive on growing federal cannabis for research and development. That is true. Well, the good news about Ole Miss is that it lost its federal contract to grow research grade marijuana. And that's an interesting development because people have been suing and forcing other people to give them contracts. The contract for Ole Miss ends in 2028, and it will not seek to renew it, which is interesting because they've had it for, 50, 60 plus years, which means it's now time for a shift for a broader change. Because until now, the only place information came out and the only place in the country that was allowed to grow federally legal cannabis for research was Ole Miss. Weird, right? You would think it would be somewhere else, maybe in California or Oregon or I don't know. But that's true. So we have a lot to keep an eye on in 2026. See, I already did it. How many times have you already crossed out 2025 on your paper and fixed it with a 6? I've done it at least 3 times. Probably do it 3 more. But 2026 is shaping up to be a very important year. I know we have a lot going on in the world, and unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that except be here with all of you on this podcast, trying to just build a community. So I appreciate you all being here. If there's something that you want to see from 2026, let us know. Where do you live? Where are you watching from? I'm going to be putting out more content, more than just once or twice a month, barring my schedule. As we know, we're all pretty busy doing multiple things, trying to make money in this world-changing economy. And I wish you all the best in 2026 for whatever you're doing. And I hope that you stay blessed and don't forget to tip your bud tenders. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you soon.